Youths, let me give you all of my law school advice.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. I am so excited that some of you are heading off to law school soon. You must have made your decisions, and that's super exciting. So today I thought I would switch it up a little bit and talk to my very, very good friend Anna over here. Anna just finished her last year of law school at Duke and is heading off to a really prestigious big firm job. So that's super exciting. And Anna's actually the one who inspired me to go to law school, which is just super meaningful to me. And so I wanted to take a quick second to talk with her about her experience and her thought process going into it. So thanks for being here, Anna.
Thank you so much, Esther. I'm so excited to be here. It's been so fun watching your videos and watching your whole law school journey, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so excited to be here.
I love Anna. She is my guiding spirit animal through this law school journey. So Anna, can you maybe just tell us a little bit about why you decided to go to law school? Were you always interested in it, or was it something that you kind of came to later on in life?
So it's something that I got interested in, I think, like early on in college. Going into college, I was actually planning on being a science major. I started college as a physics major.
Cool.
It was fun, but I think when I started to understand the realities of what like being a physics PhD and all that would actually entail, the type of work that I'd be doing and the sort of lifestyle that came with it, I just started to realize it wasn't really the right thing for me. And I started thinking about what I like doing, and like throughout like middle school onward, my strongest areas have always been English and science. So it's like two really distinct different sort of like modes of thinking.
Yeah.
But I've always like loved writing, and I've loved sort of like the logical math stuff. And I sort of came to understand that law is something that combines those things. And actually, when I was in high school and I was on the competitive math team, I was a math lead. It was so cool. My
Real life Lindsay Lohan over here. No, shit. What's her name? Not
Katie
Herring.
Katie Herring,
Yeah,
yes.
anyway.
When Mu Alpha Theta is like the competitive math thing in the Southeast. Anyway, my event was actually like a logic event. It was like logic based.
Cool.
So it's kind of like, it was like similar to LSAT stuff. So anyway, that's how I started getting really interested in it, thinking like, okay, it kind of combines these two things that I love. I started doing research about it, and yeah, I mean, it was not like a straightforward path necessarily, because whenever I started really thinking about going to law school, that was like a couple of years after the economic crash, which for those of you who remember, there was a time where it was really popular to write think pieces about how no one should go to law school.
Right.
I read 20 different articles that were like, no one should go to law school, and here's why.
Reading these think pieces and thinking like, does this apply to me? Does this not apply to me? Like, how does my life fit into this sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was something that I did a lot of research about and thought about very hard, because I had there were all these warning signs that were like, don't do this. And so I took 2 years off after undergrad, and I worked in a different field. I worked in marketing the whole time, like studying for the LSAT on and off. And something I would do is I would set up sort of like informational interviews with attorneys in different fields, and ask them like, what does your job entail? What is your day-to-day life like? What kind of work do you do? How do you feel about it? And after like, but in the end kind of turned out to be years of research, I was like, okay, I want to do this. Went through the application process, decided to go to Duke, which was the best decision I've ever made. I love Duke forever. And yeah, it just turned out to be great. So I could not be more excited about starting work in the fall, studying for the bar right now, but it was definitely like the right thing.
Awesome. So were the informational interviews you did they kind of match up with the reality of the kind of work that you saw people doing over the summer, like what you expect to be doing as well, or was it different?
Something that came out of it was that there's just so many different types of careers in law, and what it means to be a lawyer is going to vary from city to city and job to job within those cities. And so
that's true. I thought before I came to law school, I kind of didn't want to be a lawyer because I saw it as kind of a cheesy profession, like only like really slick dudes. No, I mean, even before you did it though, like when I was in high school and stuff, people would be like, oh, you should be a lawyer because you like writing and whatever, and I was like, no, only like assholes become lawyers. Like people who like to go up in court and be like, I object, or like
that's exactly what I do actually. That's actually that's what you do for interviews.
Yeah.
But no, I mean it's just like people with different types of jobs can have really different the work they do, their day-to-day lives, their relationship with coworkers.
The law?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's something where you can really find a niche that works for you. That being said, it's still not the right thing for everybody, and I do think a lot of that backlash from like 2010-ish had a lot to do with a lot of people going into law where it was really not the right fit.
Yeah.
But I think if you're someone who, has those, like that writing and research skill, and then maybe also some of that analytical skills, it's a good set. So I think it's still prudent to kind of like look into like, what does this really look like? But I think that there was a period where there was like over warning because there were so many people who were like really not cut out for lawyers who went into it. Yeah. And to be fair, also in that time the job market was like really bad, so it was bad for everybody, It was.
We were all struggling and having our quarter life crises and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
What have you liked best about being in law school, and what has been the least pleasant part of it?
Ooh, so I think what I've liked the best about law school, I think would actually probably be like my relationships with my classmates. Everyone has a different experience with this, of course, every school and year to year. But I feel like with my class at Duke, I have a lot of really, really great friends. And I feel like both on a personal and professional level, I've made like really amazing connections that I expect to last for decades.
That's awesome.
And I feel like that's really been helpful both on a personal level and also just in terms of professional stuff. Like I have like when we graduate and we start our jobs, we already graduated, but when we start our jobs, I'm gonna have friends in like every major market who I can call on. I know, it's weird that I keep forgetting. I keep like people ask me like what I do, and I keep being like, I'm a law student. I was a law student. I'm in this weird limbo because I can't say that I'm an attorney yet because I haven't passed the bar, but I'm also not a law student. I'm just a person who studies for the bar. That is my existence. But I think my favorite part about law school has definitely been like the relationships and the community that I've sort of experienced at Duke. And
because one thing I've discovered, and I don't know if it's true for you too, but like when I arrived in law school, it's really, really cool to meet so many people who are so similar and yet so different. Like people have done such different things leading up to get to where they are now. Yeah,
absolutely. I think people have had a really interesting array of backgrounds among my friends, and also in terms of like what they're doing, and that's cool. Like I feel like if I am in a situation where I'm like, hey, I need to talk to somebody about securities and bounce the ball around a little bit, I like know people I can call, and also like in terms of career advice, older students were always like so helpful. If I like posted something like, hey, I want to talk to somebody about Texas, I'd have like 5 different people message me and say like, hey, I'm going to Dallas, I'm going to Houston, like let's talk. And that's been really great. And that's something I hope to be able to do for younger law students at Duke, or that I know from other means.
I hope to find some students somewhere and mentor them.
Only this isn't like an open call.
So what has been one thing that surprised you the most about law school, either positive or negatively?
So I think what surprised me the most, and this is something I've thought about a lot, I think there's a sort of cyclical pattern where people are like, law school is horrible, and then some people go and it's like better than they expect, and they're like, oh, law school's great, and then like the next people go and they're like, what? This is horrible, why did you tell me this? But so
we watched this play out. This played out between us.
There's like there's like a handful of people who are like 1 to 2 L's who I advised. And I was like, 1 L's awesome and so fun. And then like they've been like, what are you talking about? It was really hard. But so anyway, with my background of like I said, I read every article on the internet that had a headline to the effect of don't go to law school. So I went in with these expectations of like law school is going to be horrible, you're going to work horrible hours, you're going to make no friends, it's going to be terrible and miserable every second. And so I went in kind of prepared for that, and I had some people who'd been through law school tell me 1 L is going to be the worst year of your life. It ended up honestly kind of being one of the best. And so I was surprised by how much fun I had in law school. But again, that's everyone's experience is really different. But I thought that to me, the work was manageable and really rewarding, and I really had a pretty good time while I did it. So I think that's what surprised me, given sort of the preparation work I had. Now that I've said that, someone's gonna watch this and like be like, law school's so fun, and then go in and be like, oh my god, there's so much reading.
It's good because they've probably already seen my video where I'm like, it is a lot more work than I expected. Someone once told me it would be as easy as undergrad.
I mean,
and that was.
It's not like easy, but I think it's just, it was so hyped up to me as like, it's going to be the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And I thought it was really awesome. And I think it's always sort of, you know, whatever your expectations are. So I think for people who went straight through, there's pros and cons to going straight through or waiting. I personally advocate for waiting, but
I think more and more also schools are advocating for waiting or saying like it would be good, because the way that the law school job search is structured, it's so compressed time-wise that you really don't have a lot of time to figure out what you want out of a working environment. And then once you choose something, you're kind of committed to that for like at least a couple of years. So I personally agree. I think that it makes sense to work for a couple of years so you get to know at least one option, whether you like it or not, and try to fit yourself to that later on.
Yeah, I think there's so much value to waiting a little bit, and I think one of the types of value is like that I think it gives you an appreciation for being in school again. I think if you go straight through and say, in undergrad, my major was East Asian Languages and Civilizations.
That's
it's a mouthful.
That was my double major.
Yeah, but that was something I really loved studying, and I got to take really cool classes like independent Chinese documentary, and that was dope. And I think that if I had gone straight from that to like property, that I might have had a different experience. But I spent 2 years
Kung Fu films and then torts.
Yeah, excuse me, torts are really fun in my opinion. Torts are hilarious.
We had different torts experiences. Insert your dry doctrinal class of choice there.
Yeah, whatever. But I I think working. So I did marketing for a really fun e-commerce company, but day to day having like a real job, I think is can be tedious in a lot of ways, even though it was like a fun job that I liked. So I think going from that to school, I had like this energy of being so excited to like learn, and even if it was something like property, that's my example of like the most boring 1L class, even something like property, to do reading and like think critically and talk to my, you know, super intelligent classmates about like what is the law, like I loved that. Versus I think that sometimes when you go straight through, if you have like an undergrad major that you love, that's something more interesting than property law, which is most things, then I think that working helps you have a different perspective that's like more positive. But there are benefits to going straight through, but I do think like overall I was really pleased with my decision.
So now that you finished 3L, have there ever been times in law school where you felt like it was really a drag and you felt like you didn't really want to do it anymore? And how did you motivate yourself through that? Or did you feel the whole time that you were like really committed to what you were doing in law school and you thought it was like really fun?
So I think there were individual classes that I found challenging in a less rewarding way. Like there's some classes where you're like, this is hard, but ooh, I'm like learning. And there's others where you're like, this is really hard and I feel like this is just like difficult. But I feel like I never overall lost sight of feeling very motivated by it. And I think that's, again, everyone's experience is different, but I feel like every semester I had at least one class where I was like really into it and really enjoying it. And I think that it's something where just kind of like always keeping your perspective of like what's the light at the end of the tunnel. And so also kind of always like thinking about, I think this is like sort of an attorney instinct, but I try to always think about like the worst case scenario to try to calm myself down, where it's like, okay, this class is hard, but like worst case scenario, what's the worst grade I think I'm actually gonna get? Y'all have like pass, fail?
Yeah, we have
For those of you at Stanford, you don't understand grades, but like, I was like, okay, realistically, it's gonna be fine, and kind of like understanding
the stakes.
Because I think everyone has different ways they cope with the stress of law school, because I think one of the biggest challenges for really hardworking, motivated people to come into an environment where suddenly there's like this curve and you can work as hard as you can and you think you're the smartest, but then you still might make like median, which again, that's for Stanford people a grade thing. But I think that
it's both everyone, a grade and a math
I think that's one of the biggest. I think that's one of the biggest stressors for a lot of people in law school, and I think that like having perspective and trying to like just keep it in perspective about like, okay, maybe I don't have to get like the 4.0 in every class. In fact, you are not going to probably. But
nothing really rides on that. There's
so
a difference between the person who gets like a 4.0 and someone who gets like a 3.8 in terms of like job outcomes or anything, or a 3.5 or a 3.2.
Whatever. All of the grade point averages.
I don't know about
it's not that you're just sorry. It's not that like these things don't matter, but I just think that it's
but you could be happy with
that. I think that like kind of keeping I think that like trying to keep like a balanced perspective is really healthy. I think that's an adjustment for a lot of people.
So one of the things that I found challenging as someone who just finished 1L is looking up from my 1L slog and having perspective on the amount of time I have left, because 3 years is actually a very short time to pack in basically the foundation for a lifetime of legal knowledge and practice. So even though we went to different schools and everyone's going to have a different experience at their particular school, what are some classes that you wish you had taken, or what is the way that you approached picking classes that were really important to you and you were really glad that you took?
Yeah, totally. I do think that picking classes is really scary, and it's funny, like even this last semester I had times where like someone would talk about a class they were in and I'm like, oh, I'll take that next semester, and then I was like, oh no, I can't. I'm really sad actually. But I think that
it's cool that you were excited. Like
there's classes that I wish I could do. I mean, I'm excited to like be an attorney, but like I wish I had like a time turner like in Harry Potter and I could go back and take more classes. But that being said, I think for upper level classes, in terms of choosing, I think talking to upper level people you already know about, like teachers they like and things like that, is really great. And just generally, I think a lot of people come into law school with like ideas about what they want to do, but a lot of people, if we're being honest, have no idea.
Yeah.
And so I think that especially earlier in your career, taking like a wide breadth and just getting exposure to a lot of different things is really helpful. Because you might not, like you might take tax law and be like, wow, I kind of love this. And I'm not going into tax law, but I did take 2 semesters of tax law and I actually like really loved it. I took federal income tax and corporate tax. And it also was really helpful because understanding the law from different perspectives helps solidify things. Like coming into law school, just my knowledge of like how corporations work, I think was weaker than people who'd worked in certain other sectors. And taking classes like corporate tax helped me understand corporations like more generally. And I think that's also a good thing to keep in mind going into your summer jobs with firms. I think even if I think trying as many different things as you can with however your summer program is structured is really helpful, because a lot of us don't really know what we want to do, and there's maybe something that sounds dry to you, but then when you get into it, you're like, wow, I love this work. This is like really interesting. And also, I would always try to have some balance in my class choices with like what I thought of as like more difficult doctrinal classes and what I thought of as fun classes.
Yeah.
Which is like, even saying that like in law school.
What was a fun class for you?
Okay, so one of my favorite fun classes was called Race and the Law with a professor that I really, really love, Guy Charles at Duke.
Shout out to Guy.
It was sort of like a survey class where we looked at different areas of the law where race had come into play historically, and we talked about how should it function in the law, what is it really, and so it was like kind of a multidisciplinary class in a lot of ways. And then I also took a class called Civil Rights Litigation, which was a lot of civil procedure and a lot of overlap with Fed courts, but kind of through this like the interesting lens of like how do we litigate civil rights. Yeah, and so that was like a class that was like really interesting, but then also really useful. Studying for the bar right now, the constitutional law section there are a lot of things going through that I'm like, oh, I recognize this because it's something I covered in this class very thoroughly. Yeah, and so that's the other thing is, I think if you ever have a time, babies, if you ever have a time when you're like torn between 2 classes,
Don't call my viewers baby.
You are little legal babies. If you ever have a time where you're torn between 2 classes, as someone starting the bar right now, definitely I recommend taking classes that are going to be on the bar. Someone told me that it doesn't matter because you can just learn things in the summer, and just when I'm doing a topic that I have studied before versus I have not, it feels very different.
I mean, the summer's only like 2 months long.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Yes. So I definitely, and I'm surprised by which classes have, like even for example, Race and the Law, it's a lot of constitutional law. And so like going in, out of the subjects I've covered so far, constitutional law, I'm like, I know this like the back of my hand, not to brag. Lots of things I don't know, many things I don't know, but I will. Yeah, so I think like doing a wide range of things and having a balance between like there are classes that you're gonna feel like whatever it is at your school, there's classes you're gonna feel like you have to take. Balancing that with something kind of fun and trying to have like some, don't do like every big heavy textbook class every semester. Have some smaller classes, have some writing classes, and kind of have some balance that way.
Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing your wisdom.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on your show.
If you guys haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe now, and I'll talk to you next time.
Good to do. Bye.